Okay, look, I realise that you don't put cushions on the top of the backs of a sofa, but I want to make things nice and decorative for you and show you various things that you can see here on the well, it'll be on the right, won't it? I'm recording backwards. On the right there, you'll see an image that's actually of Montmartre in Paris, and it's a photograph that I took that I had converted into a little cushion there. And we've got paintings here that are mine, and there, and up here. Got my nice plant, making everything nice and cozy and attractive for you. And I'm feeling very blessed, actually. I had a particularly lovely very early evening or late afternoon stroll around the village. And I take my time now. I know that in my past I've done an awful lot of rushing around, and I've not really been that aware of various things that have been going on around me, and nice things, beautiful things, you know, vistas that I could have taken more advantage of. But the truth is, and I never like to sound, you know, like I'm bragging, that I'm showing off, that I'm, you know, that I'm placing myself above people. But I grew up in a really beautiful part of an incredibly beautiful country in England. And it was the reason I wanted to come back to this place so much was because I have a deep connection to this part of the world and to this part of the country. And the truth is, I did it, you know, despite protestations, despite objections of, quote, how awkward it was going to be for me to move back to the village where I spent most of my childhood. Well, I got back here, got a fantastic flat that I live in now, and I'm bringing myself closer back to the childhood home that I want to buy back, that I will buy back. And when I was walking around the village, I took several opportunities to stop and look at the landscape, even though the sun was mostly set. I stood there and was just overcome with a profound sense of gratitude. Just thinking, I'm so lucky to live here. And just literally a few seconds before I stopped at one of the particular points to look out over the landscape, there was a chap walking his very, very sweet dog. Lots of sweet dogs around here, with lots of freedom and room to roam. And I just had kind of an imaginary conversation in my head with this chap, just thinking, wow, look at all of this. Aren't we so lucky to be here, to be able to wander around in our nice clothes and our walking boots around these beautiful country lanes? And this particular lane that I was on leads to a very, very nice farm that's in an absolutely idyllic setting. And this is why I say I don't like to sound like I'm bragging, but this doesn't exist everywhere in the world. It doesn't even exist everywhere in this country. But there are very, very many people who do get in their cars and drive from neighbouring towns and cities, and they come and take in the beauty of it as well. So even if you don't live in one of these magical hotspots, well, you can actually travel there, and people do. And we get to take in all of this beauty. And I mean, I'm laughing. It's not a laughing matter, really. But the powers that be, the authorities, the institutions are they're ramping up the COVID masking propaganda again. And the thing is, we think, oh, you know, and even I say they're ramping it up again. To those organisations, they've never stopped. They've just been tobogganing along in the same doom groove for the last 6 years. Whereas we know, I would imagine the people watching this channel, we know that it's far beyond being a broken record. It's a really sick and twisted and manipulative line that they're throwing out. And it's really important. People may scoff, you know, and people do mock those, including me, who say it's really important to learn to say no. But it is. Imagine 5 or 6 years ago, if more people had said no to all of this complete nonsense. And nonsense is the nicest term that we can call this. Tyranny and corruption and propaganda is very easily what we can call this. And I think it's really important to. But I know that there are many, many people very close to me, around me, who will believe it again. And there are many people who talk about other catastrophic events in history, the world wars, and people will say, oh, well, the thing is, you should vote in general elections now because that's what your forefathers fought for, your right to vote for these governments. And the thing is, it's such an old fucking line now. No, they didn't. They didn't. And I think we have to start to appreciate just how force-fed and misguided all of these cultural beliefs that we have. The idea that we went to war in the 20th century to fight for our right to vote. It's demonstrably now, it's such a lie, but people will still use it as emotional manipulation. If you decide to say, actually, no, I'm not going to vote for any of these people because I value my freedom. It's not the right to have to vote, it's the right to vote. But if there's nobody to actually vote for, well, you are not morally obliged to vote for your prison masters. You aren't. And it sounds like a really, really dramatic thing. But if we can't see that the charade of voting now in general elections and council elections, if we can't see that it's a total fraud, well, I don't put much stock in such people who will continue to peddle this line. I remember watching a podcast where sort of a famous politician of the past was saying, oh, well, you should vote. That's what your grandfathers fought for in the wars. And I thought, no, it's not. The reason that they went to fight was because they were mocked and ridiculed if they didn't, and potentially genetically ostracized for that. But for me, and I think a growing number of people, what you eventually get to realize is that the pacifists were the ones on the right side of history, the ones who weren't willing to go to the meat grinder for bankers' wars and for politicians' wars to get themselves out of a financial bind. I think, and you know, we're not supposed to talk about politics, but our history is wound around all of these political machinations and posturing by people who do not have your best interests at heart. So in our period of history that we are living through now, we get to decide who the victors are. And I think the victors are the ones who say, no, I'm not going to wear a mask. Your price, whatever that might be, is not worth the sacrifice of my soul. Thank you very much. And people say, oh, but the billionaires, we need to tax their wealth, we need to tax their riches. But they're not wealthy and they're not rich. They're bought off, you see? And a lot of what happened during COVID and the so-called pandemic, which it wasn't, and all of the lockdowns, which were tyranny, watch for the misuse of language. Our NHS. No, it's not. It's their. It's their NHS that they manipulate us with. What you realise is we put too much emphasis on safety and fitting in, and we forget that what makes countries great is freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of bodily autonomy, freedom of transaction, who we do and who we don't mix with, who we do and who we don't listen to, who we do and who we don't trust. These are really important things to keep in your mind, that whenever they're trying to manipulate you into exceptionally damaging and corrupt and evil practices, that you can say no. And in doing that, know that you are giving a yes to your freedom, to your autonomy, and to your soul. Because that is the matter at hand. That is the debate on deck. And in any moment, you have the capacity and the freedom to be part of the noble, the good, and the principled. It's more important than ever in our lives that you learn the difference between bad and good, between tyranny and freedom.